Assalamualaikum. Today we are going to talk about the excretory system. Excretion. Excretion means to remove something. In organisms, when we are dealing with the living organisms, then excretion means removal of different materials from the body of organisms. As we know that organisms, the living organisms, always carry out the metabolism. They have to break down various things and they have to make various things. Metabolism is a combination of catabolism and anabolism. Anabolism is a process which is making of things. When our body needs to make certain things, this process is called anabolism. In this process, energy is utilized. When body is performing some functions, energy is also utilized. This energy has to be produced. Body conduct or carry out catabolism to produce energy. As we know that the major molecule which is involved in production of energy is the glucose molecule. By the breakdown of glucose molecules, the organisms produce energy for them. This is the major catabolism, the major catabolic pathways. But there are many other metabolic pathways which are always carried out inside the body. All of these catabolic pathways releases some byproducts, some extra products, or we can say the waste products. These are those things, those metabolites, we must say in a more proper term. These are those metabolites or the end products of the metabolism which are not required by the body. And because catabolism is always, in action, it is always carried out, so these products keep producing. And if they keep producing, they tend to be accumulated inside the body if they are not removed on time. This is very important that organisms get rid of these byproducts or waste products. Let us look at some major reactions that occur inside the body. Have a look on the slide. It shows that carbohydrates, when react with oxygen, produces carbon dioxide, water and energy. As we know that carbohydrates, proteins and lipids are three major food components of the food. The proteins, when they react with oxygen, they are catabolized, they are broken down to carbon dioxide, water, ammonia and energy. Lipids, when they react with oxygen, they produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. Energy is useful for body. Body utilizes energy for its anabolic reactions and all the functions. But carbon dioxide, water and ammonia, as we observe in all of the three reactions with carbohydrates, with proteins or lipids, three products, waste products are produced: carbon dioxide, water and ammonia. If these reactions goes on and these metabolic byproducts keep producing and they are not removed, they will be accumulated inside the body, and their accumulation is not good, or we must say these are dangerous or hazardous for the body. Rise in carbon dioxide may result in decrease in the pH of the body. Carbon dioxide, if it is increased in the body, it causes the decrease in pH, which means that the pH of the body will become more acidic if more carbon dioxide is produced in the blood. And this more acidic pH could be very dangerous for different organs and the vessels of the blood itself, for the vessels of the blood itself. Water, if it is present in excess, this may give rise to various problems. For example, if water normally, as in the plasma, is about 92% of the plasma, if its concentration increases, then it may result in removal of the fluid, the water content from the blood vessels towards different tissues, which results in accumulation of water content in different tissue fluids of the body, which is called dropsy, which may lead towards, you can say, fluid retention in different parts of the body. Swelling, if the water content is decreased, decrease than normal, then this is called dehydration. This may also give rise to various problems. For example, decrease in blood pressure. If water content, because we know that there is a specific volume of the blood inside the body, and the vessels, they are also in a specific number, and their sizes are specific. So if the volume of water decrease, then the volume of plasma will decrease inside the vessels, and this will result in drop of blood pressure, which could result in serious problems. This has to be taken seriously and have to be corrected. Ammonia is highly toxic, very, very toxic for the body tissues. If the concentration of ammonia goes high, then this is very risky for the tissues, because it is toxic, means this is poisonous for the tissues of the body. Body readily convert ammonia into urea, which is less toxic product, but even this less toxic product also has to be removed from the body. So, for removal of all of these ingredients, these waste products, excretory systems are required. As we know that carbon dioxide is also removed by the lungs during the exhalation process. During the inhalation and exhalation process, the respiration, organismic respiration, carbon dioxide is removed from the body. Ammonia is converted by the liver into urea, but then urea has to be removed. Particularly, the nitrogenous waste materials and water has to be removed by a system called excretory system. We talk about excretion in different vertebrate land animals as an example. As we know that land animals, the vertebrates are in a huge diversity. There are many types of vertebrates present on the earth, in the biosphere. They are present on land, they are present in water, they are present in fresh water, they are present in marine water, live on the trees, live in the deserts. So, the vertebrates are living in diverse environments, and they are of diverse types. Let us look at the different waste products that the vertebrates produce: carbon dioxide, mineral salts, urea, creatinine, uric acid, excess water, ammonia. So, the vertebrates produces a variety of waste products. To remove these waste products, different organs play their role. For example, carbon dioxide is removed by respiration, the respiratory system. Water is removed by sweating through skin, but the major role is played by an excretory system helped by a structure called kidney. Kidneys are the most important structures, and they are the major contributors in excretory systems in vertebrates. Let's have a look on excretion generally in animal, just briefly. There are organisms which are unicellular. There are small animals, there are large animals. In very small animals, the unicellular animals, because the body consists of just a single cell, like an amoeba, this is very easy to exchange their waste material or the other materials with the environment. Just through their plasma membrane, the cell membrane, these organisms exchange their materials with the environment. They can remove their waste products outside. For example, the amoeba have to face the excess of water because it is living in a hypotonic environment in fresh water. Amoeba have a contractile vacuole inside, which continuously removes water from its body. Amoeba removes ammonia directly through the skin, through the cell membrane inside the water, because it is living in the water. There are small animals which have simpler structures. They can remove their waste products directly in the water. For example, hydra, a small organism, multicellular organism, can easily remove its waste products in the water coming in and going out through its gastrovascular cavity. It have a cavity inside the body in the center, which is called a gastrovascular cavity. And there is an opening of that cavity, and water enters in and fill that cavity, and this organism can remove its waste products directly in the water. That is because water is so close to the cells that they can directly exchange their waste products or maybe other products like oxygen and other materials with that water, and then water goes out. In complex organisms like vertebrates, these mechanisms are more and more complex, and their habitats, as we previously talked about, are very diverse. There are adaptations to the habitat in the excretory systems. Vertebrates lives in water, in fresh water, in brackish water, like for example marine water. They live in deserts, they live in terrestrial environment, even aerial. The birds live in air, they fly in air for most of their time. Organisms live in water, fresh water. The fish, the freshwater fish, have to face with lots and lots of quantities of water. The organisms living in brackish water, like marine water, the sea fish, have to face a very high concentration of salts. The animals living in desert, because in desert there is a shortage of water, they always have a problem of water shortage. That is, they don't have good quantities of water for drinking. The terrestrial animals, in comparison, are in a balanced position. These organisms, according to their habitats and according to the availability of water and availability of other foods and other things, adapted different types of kidneys and related structures. For example, the desert animals, they have their kidneys with the comparatively say smaller nephrons. In a way, their kidneys are designed in a way that they produces a very concentrated urinary, or we can say excretory products, mostly in the form of crystals, which have minimum quantity of water. The freshwater fish, because they are exposed to larger quantities of water, they have to excrete large quantities of water from their body, urine, water in the form of urine. So their kidneys are adapted accordingly for removal of excess of water. The marine fish, on the other hand, because they have to face brackish water, water with very high salt concentrations, and and there is a reduced quantity of water in that say solution, we can say the brackish water solution. Their kidneys are designed in this way that they produce minimum urine. Just like the terrestrial animals, they have a very adaptive and we must say advanced form of kidney. We will talk more about the human kidney, which is the most complicated and which is designed according to the needs and the requirements of the human beings. Some other organs also act as excretory organs. For example, skin. Skin also acts as an excretory structure. As we say that mineral salts and water are the common metabolic waste products, and skin act as excretory organ. It removes mineral salts and water. For example, in summer, in the form of sweat. We experience sweat commonly, and the sweat actually consists of the mineral salts and water. So the skin also sometimes act as an excretory organ. Some organisms which are particularly living in very high salt environment have a specific organ called salt gland. This is a gland inside their head, behind or close the eyes, which continuously remove the salts from their body. And in some birds, this salt goes out just like in the form of tears. People says that this bird cries Actually, those birds have salt glands, and they continuously excrete salt from their through their eyes, and it goes out. So this is how they remove their excess salt with the help of a salt gland. This is a very specific adaptation of some birds which lives in very high brackish water, the water which have a very high concentration of salts. In some organisms, intestine also act as an excretory organ. Through intestine, water is many times removed. Mostly intestine act as an excretory organ for excess water. Sometimes it may act for certain salts. Then comes the kidney. Kidney is the major organ which is involved in excretion in vertebrates. It also helps in osmoregulation, because osmoregulation means the regulation of water inside the body. Because the water regulation is also extremely important, because water potential is one of the most important homeostatic balances in the body. Now, difference in kidney of different organisms in fresh and marine water are their specific adaptations. As we talked in case of the fish, the freshwater fish and the marine fish. That is, freshwater fish produces dilute urine with much quantities of water, and the marine fish, they produces less urine, concentrated urine with a very decreased quantity of water. Now we come on the human beings, the human excretory system. Humans produces carbon dioxide, water, ammonia, and other waste products, and they have to remove these consistently to maintain their homeostatic balance, because this homeostatic balance is responsible for performing all the functions of the body. In the case of increase in pH, for example, or a decrease in pH, many enzymes of the body may not work. In the case of increase or decrease in pH or some other solute concentration of the body, our many cells may not respond as they are doing normally to the environmental situations, to the internal environment, maybe to the external environment. So excretory system is extremely important, and the major organ which is involved in human excretory system is the kidney. There are other accessory structures which are associated with kidneys. Let us have a look on a diagram to look at the structure of human excretory system. Let us look at this diagram. This diagram shows the excretory organs in human beings. If we start from the top, we can see on the right side in red color the aorta. Aorta is the main vessel with oxygenated blood coming from the heart. On the left side, we can see in blue the vena cava, the major vein which is taking the blood from the body back to the heart. This is deoxygenated blood. We can see that both of these vessels are entering on both sides into two bean-shaped structures, the artery and the vein. These bean-shaped structures are the kidneys in human beings. We can see that on the top of the kidney there are two light yellow colored bodies. These bodies are called adrenal glands. Then if we come down, we can see that towards the inner side of these bean-shaped kidneys there is a depression. Through this depression a canal is coming out. This part of the kidney is called hilus, and the canal which is coming out, which is initially very thick and then it becomes thin, this is called the renal pelvis. When it goes down and become a thin canal, a thin tube, this is called the ureter. You can see that one pelvis is coming out of each kidney. It means that both kidneys are giving rise to a pelvis and then to ureter. Both of these ureters, right ureter and the left ureter, are going down to an organ called bladder, also called urinary bladder. This is the part of human excretory system that stores urine for temporary time. The artery which is going inside each kidney on the both sides are called renal arteries, left and right, and the veins which are entering in the arteries are called renal vein, the left and right. This is the generalized diagram of the human excretory system. In human beings, a pair of kidneys exist inside the abdominal cavity. Kidneys are attached to the dorsal body wall. They are slightly covered with a fatty layer to protect them, but they keep attached to the dorsal body wall so that they are protected in a way that they are attached and they are not exposed to any type of interaction with other organs. The convex part of the kidney, that is the part as we have seen in the previous diagram which have a depression, is towards the vertebral column, and the more rounded part is facing towards the other side of the vertebral column. One kidney, as you may have observed, if we go back to the diagram, one kidney is slightly higher or anterior in position than the other kidney. Actually, and the other kidney is towards more posterior side. This difference is actually due to presence of a large stomach towards that side. Due to the presence of a large stomach, because stomach in human being is a large organ, the kidney's position is slightly posterior in comparison to the other one, which is below the liver. The convex part of kidney, that is the part towards the vertebral column, the depression, give rise to a space, or we can say provides space, where the renal vein, renal arteries and the nerves can enter the kidneys. So this depression is actually the place where the renal artery, renal vein and the nerves enters or leaves the kidney. Then comes the ureters and then the urinary bladder. Let's have a look on a diagram, a surface diagram. As we previously observed, now we are looking at in a more larger picture. Kidney looks like a beam externally. If we do not observe it under a cross section, we can see more clearer way that an artery is entering inside the kidney, and when it is entering, it is branching. We can see that a vein is also entering kidney, actually leaving kidney. It is also branched. Then renal pelvis is coming out, or we can say the depression is also giving rise to renal pelvis, which is making down there a ureter, a thin duct, which is actually for collecting the urine and moving it downwards towards the urinary bladder. Let's have a look on a cross section now. If we cut the kidney and look at the cut section, a human kidney consists of three major regions. One is the cortex. You can see in the diagram that the externalmost part in pinkish color is called the cortex. Then the next part, which is light pinkish in color, is called renal medulla. This part also have various structures which are looking dark brown in color. These are called the pyramids of the kidney, because their shape resembles the pyramids. There are many pyramids inside, and then these pyramids are entering inside the renal pelvis. A funnel shape or an extended portion, we can call it a funnel shaped portion. All of the pyramids are entering or attached to this funnel shaped portion, and this funnel shaped portion is actually called the renal pelvis. These pyramids have those units which are responsible for producing the urine, and then all of these functional units release that urine or collect that or send that towards the renal pelvis, which lead towards the ureter, and the urine goes down. Let us have a look on these functional units. Let us look at the next diagram. If we cut a section of kidney from cortex through medulla, we can see one functional unit as we are observing in the diagram towards right. This functional unit is called a nephron. The kidney have so many nephrons to produce urine. Let's have a look on different parts of the nephron. Nephron is the functional unit of kidney. This is responsible, all the nephrons are collectively responsible for producing a urine and conducting various processes for the production of urine. The first part, as you can see, is called a renal corpuscle. There is a small corpuscle-like structure, a capsule-like structure, from which this nephron actually starts, where the artery, actually a part of artery, enters. Then comes the next part, a highly convoluted part, which is called a proximal tubule. This proximal tubule is convoluted, highly convoluted. Then it goes down in the form of the third part. It makes the loop of Henle. As you can see, that renal corpuscle and the proximal tubule are present inside the cortex. Then the loop of Henle is entering inside the medulla. Now there are two types of nephrons. In one type of nephron, the loop of Henle is not that long that it enters too deep in the medulla. We call them cortical nephrons. There are other nephrons like this which you are observing here who have long loops of Henle, and their loop of Henle goes deep down into the medulla. These are called medullary nephrons. So nephrons themselves are of two types, cortical nephrons and the medullary nephrons. Cortical nephrons whose loop of Henle is short, and the medullary nephrons whose loop of Henle is very long. After the loop of Henle you can see have two parts. One is descending, going down towards medulla and then making a U down there in the medulla. We can say it takes a U-turn and then it goes up. This is the proximal part. Then this goes back into the cortex, convolute again and makes the next part, which is called a distal tubule. Distal tubule remains in the cortex. After distal tubule, distal tubule is, as you can see in the diagram, is again convoluted. It goes down and make a comparatively larger duct called the collecting duct. Collecting duct, as you can see, goes down till the end of the medulla, and this actually produces the final urine towards the ureter. So a nephron, number one, nephrons are of two types, cortical nephrons and the medullary nephron. Cortical, whose loop of Henle is short, medullary, whose loop of Henle is very long and goes deep in the medulla. Then various parts of the nephron are corpuscle, the renal corpuscle, then proximal tubule, then a loop of Henle, then a distal tubule, and then the collecting duct. These are various parts of the nephron. Let us have a look on another diagram for some more details of the renal corpuscle. The renal corpuscle actually consists of an extension of the convoluted tubule in the form of a bowl, a capsule. Inside it, there is, as you can see in the diagram, the efferent arteriole, the artery is coming inside, which is giving rise to an arteriole, and this arteriole is making a complex network of capillaries in the form of a circular structure, a rounded structure. This rounded structure, convoluted network of capillaries, is called a glomerulus. So glomerulus is a network of capillaries which is surrounded by an extension of the renal tubule and makes it a whole corpuscle or a capsule. This is sometimes also called or termed as the Bowman's capsule in the name of the discoverer. So it means that artery enters inside the kidney and gives rise to arteriole, and arteriole enters into the glomerulus, actually the Bowman's capsule, and makes the glomerulus. And glomerulus is surrounded by the Bowman's capsule, and then you can see next that this artery, the same artery on the other side from the glomerulus, is moving up and moving from the top of the convoluted tubules. It is making a whole network around the convoluted tubule, proximal tubule, and the loop of Henle. And then it is making a capillary network down there, and after that this capillary network is joining with the venule, which is going back in the vein, which is coming inside the kidney. So it means that each nephron is surrounded from every side, almost every side except for the collecting duct. It is surrounded by the blood vessel, by the artery first, then a capillary network, and then going back towards the venule. So nephron is richly supplied with blood vessels, and this is a requirement for exchange of the materials, the waste products between the blood and the renal tubule. Now we are going to talk about the urine formation by the nephron. Urine formation is quite a long and complex process that consists of few steps. We start from step 1. Step 1 is filtration. It is also called pressure filtration because when blood enters in the kidney, it is entering through the artery, the renal artery. Renal artery enters inside the kidney and give rise to the arterioles. These arterioles, as we previously seen in the various diagrams, that the arteriole enters inside the renal capsule and makes the glomerulus. Then it goes out to cover the nephron except for collecting duct. In the renal corpuscle, pressure filtration occurs because there is a network of capillaries inside and there is a corpuscle made by the renal tubules. This is an extension of the renal tubules. Here the process of pressure filtration occurs. Why we call it a pressure filtration? Because we know that in arteries the blood is pushed by the heart, by the contraction of the heart, the pumping action of the heart. Blood is coming with the pressure. So in the arteriole and in the capillaries, blood is coming with a pressure. And because the glomerular capillaries are in a close contact with the renal capsule, the Bowman's capsule, the exchange of materials, lot many materials, occur between the blood capillaries, the glomerulus and the renal capsule. This makes the initial filtrate, which is also called Bowman's filtrate, because this capsule, on the name of discoverer, the renal capsule is called this capsule is called the Bowman's capsule. We sometimes call it a Bowman's filtrate. This is a very initial filtrate, and this filtration occurs under high pressure because arteriole is coming, giving rise to the capillaries, pressure is high. This filtrate have many ingredients except for proteins and the red blood cells. Proteins, they are large, they cannot come out of the capillaries, and the RBCs, they are also large, they do not also come out, but glucose, amino acid, salts and water comes out of the blood vessels and enter inside the Bowman's capsule and makes the Bowman's filtrate. So the pressure filtration is the first step in urine formation. Blood is filtered, we can say that blood is filtered under the high blood pressure, not high blood pressure in those terms that we use normally for a disease, but pressure of blood is high here in the renal capsule. So the things are filtered and enter inside the corpuscle. Let us have a look on the diagram of a very close diagram of the renal corpuscle. We can see that there is an efferent arteriole which is entering inside the Bowman's capsule, the glomerulus, and the other one is going out, which is called the efferent artery. Glomerulus consists of the capillaries, which are extensive and which have a higher pressure, and you can see that the parietal layer of the glomerular capsule is so close to this network of capillaries that due to the pressure in the blood, the pressure in this network, the blood is filtered, and water, urea, glucose and some amino acids goes out of this fluid and enters the renal capsule. We call it a Bowman's filtrate. Now we know that this Bowman's filtrate have some essential important ingredients which are required by the body, like glucose and amino acids and various salts, and even excessive amounts of water. Body cannot afford losing all of these ingredients. So this initial filtrate is highly filtered again, and many of these things which are present inside this filtrate, excess water, salts, many salts, not all, glucose, amino acids, these are reabsorbed by the renal tubule, different parts of the renal tubule. This process is called reabsorption. Reabsorption is highly important, and this is actually the major important function of the renal tubule. Now, as we know that renal tubule is highly convoluted, and this urine have to pass from all of these convoluted parts of this tubule, and this tubule, second fact is this, that this tubule is surrounded by a network of capillaries. So it is richly supplied with blood vessels except for the collecting duct. So this is easy, the reabsorption in this way is easy in this functional unit of kidney. This occurs through this network of capillaries surrounding these tubules. We also can call it a selective reabsorption, because of course all of the ingredients are not reabsorbed. Water, because due to high pressure in the arterioles, is filtered in excessive quantity. So water is reabsorbed, but not all. Not much water remains as urine, part of urine. Many salts are reabsorbed because salts are also, again, just like the water, removed in excessive quantities, or we can say filtered in excessive quantities due to higher pressure. So many salts are also reabsorbed. For example, the sodium chloride, sodium and chloride ions, these are reabsorbed. Glucose is essentially reabsorbed because glucose is a required molecule by the body. It is reabsorbed. Only we know that only the diabetic patients, they have glucose in their urine, and this situation is called a hyperglycemia. But this is in the case of a disease condition when glucose is present in the body in excessive amount, and due to the patient have diabetes, it is not utilized by the body. So this is released in the urine, and due to this, this situation is called hyperglycemia. And diabetes was a disease which was indicated as a sweet urine, when people have sweet urine disease. Anyway, then amino acids are essentially reabsorbed because we know that amino acids are used as parts of proteins. They have to make proteins, so amino acids are essential ingredients. These are reabsorbed by the renal tubule. Let us have a look on an animation which shows you the process of reabsorption from the filtrate. See, this animation shows that through glomerulus filtrate, which is actually the Bowman's filtrate, which have quite a high concentration of sodium, amino acids and glucose, which are all required the body. They are present in the filtrate, and when they go down these convoluted tubules, these are absorbed by the nearby capillary present, because capillary is close in the closer vicinity, and due to difference in the concentration gradients, these sodium, amino acids and glucose, they are reabsorbed from this filtrate and go back to the blood. So they are returned to the blood. So from very first part of the convoluted tubule, the renal tubule, these important ingredients or these important materials, molecules, go back to the blood. Now have a look on the next diagram. This diagram shows a small part of a collecting duct, which shows that the lumen of collecting duct and the epithelial cells of these collecting duct, which are in close vicinity with the medulla, and the exchange of different ions and materials occur. Actually, in medulla and cortex of the kidney, these are the tissues, and they have different concentrations of various ions and salts. Because these collecting ducts, they are close to those tissues which have different concentrations, or we can say have different concentration gradients in relation with the collecting duct and the convoluted and other ducts. The exchange of different salts, water and other materials takes place. Let us have a look on the next diagram, which shows that different parts of the nephron, proximal tubule for example, there is a reabsorption of sodium chloride, there is a reabsorption of water, there is a reabsorption of various nutrients, potassium ions, but you can see that from cortex, ammonia and hydrogen ions are going towards, or they are actually entering inside this proximal tubule. This process actually occurs against the concentration gradient, and it occurs by diffusion. Then you can see down there in the medullary region, in the loop of Henle, that water is going out. Water and sodium chloride are removed, and they go back to the medulla, and they are absorbed nearby vessels, the blood vessels, and return back to the blood. If we go up and look at the distal tubule, then there is even more removal of or reabsorption of sodium chloride, water, bicarbonate ions, and some of the potassium and hydrogen are also added to these tubules, the renal tubule. The entrance of this potassium and hydrogen ions in the renal tubule from the surrounding tissue is termed as sometimes secretion. It says that hydrogen ion and potassium ions are secreted from the tissue of the kidney inside the renal tubule, and when they enter inside, they are actually included and become part of the urine. We can see at the end in the collecting duct even there is again some reabsorption of some more sodium chloride. But at the end, it makes the final volume of the urine, which have urea, water and some salts. This last part, the collecting duct, as we know previously, that it enters, this collecting duct, we can say at the end it is extended. This extended part reaches at the end of the medulla and enters inside the pelvis, the renal pelvis. Now all of the nephrons, they are doing this same process at the same time. They are filtering lot much of blood at the same time, and through whole of this process they are all forming some part of urine, and then this urine is entered inside the renal pelvis. Through renal pelvis, urine produced by all of these renal tubules, all of these nephrons, is through renal pelvis. It goes down towards the ureters, and then this is stored inside the urinary bladder. So all of this is the process of urine formation. So through this process, all of the nephrons, the functional units, are producing urine all the times and releasing that urine into the renal pelvis, and then storing this through the ureters into the urinary bladder. And when urinary bladder is filled, then a reflex arises, due to which this is released through the external opening called the urethra. The urinary bladder, when it is filled, it gives rise to a reflex. This reflex is actually, there are two controls upon this urinary bladder and its path towards urethra. One is involuntary, that is when it is filled, it is activated and gives a reflux, but the other part is muscular. As we know that urination is not controlled in the infants. This is an instinct which is learned. Later on in life, a human being, a child even, quite a toddler, can learn to consciously control the urination. But in infants, this is not yet learned, so in infants this is not under the conscious control. Kidney also help in osmoregulation. We know that osmoregulation, the regulation of water inside the body, is one of the very important components of the functioning of human body, because water is an essential part. This makes a 92% of plasma, and if concentration of water in plasma changes, then this may result in changes in blood pressure. Kidney also help in osmoregulation. If the concentration of water in the body is increased, then kidneys are stimulated to produce a dilute urine, which means that at the renal tubules, reabsorption of water is reduced. There are different mechanisms for it, but the ultimate result is that the urine is diluted, that is, less reabsorption of water occur at the renal tubules. The result is, in urine, the organism excretes more water. We call it a dilute urine. This situation could change if there is a drop in the plasma volume. For example, due to an injury, due to excessive sweating, this is possible that the blood volume drops, because during sweating, we know if there is an excessive sweating, for example during sports or running or in warm weather, through sweat lot much water is removed, so plasma volume is reduced, which may reduces the blood pressure. Kidneys also help controlling this situation. In this case, if blood volume is reduced, kidneys produces a concentrated urine, that is, at the renal tubules, they absorb more than normal water. When they absorb more than normal water, then the urine which is produced have lesser quantities of water and more concentration of salts and other ingredients. We call it a concentrated urine. When this situation comes, then a reflex arises for thirst, and this reflex actually gives message to the brain that the body needs to drink water. This is called thirst reflex. Then we feel thirst, we have to drink water to actually compensate the blood volume to a normal level. Let us have a look on another diagram. In case of lowering of blood pressure, Many times we know it occurs. This animation shows that if blood pressure lowers, then for body it could be sometimes even problematic. Person become unconscious for some time. This may become more dangerous because if blood pressure drops then a specific threshold, then the brain cells will not receive blood and they may damage. To control the situation, a hormone come in action. As you can see that in the center there is the renal tubule, the collecting duct. On one side is a peritubular capillary, the other side there is another capillary. Through one capillary a hormone is produced called ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone, as its name says, give a reflex or give a stimulus to the renal tubule to reabsorb more water from the renal tubule, the collecting duct, the last part of the renal tubule called the collecting duct. When more water is reabsorbed, the result is concentrated urine, that is urine with lesser quantities of water. When this water goes back, excessive water goes back towards the blood capillary, the blood volume of the body is temporarily restored. But if this situation continues, the body have to find out some permanent solution or maybe thirst. But this mechanism, as we know that in both kidneys, lot many renal tubules are always producing the urine. So if antidiuretic hormone comes in action, actually it is conserving much of water, which can temporarily at least handle the situation of low blood pressure by increasing the volume of blood inside the vessels. Many times it occurs when we have done some excessive sports, or there is much of sweating due to sometimes warm weather, sometimes due to injury, and there is a blood loss. This may also result in lowering blood pressure because blood volume is released. So this is a temporary solution to increase the blood pressure to a normal or near normal level for the time being when the next help comes out. For example, if there is a loss of blood, and this is not an excessive loss, then this mechanism will rise up the blood pressure, but later on if the blood is excessively lost, then this have to be replaced by more blood or plasma. This situation sometimes also happen when we give blood as a donation, because blood is going out of our body. This is a good big quantity. I hope you know that when you give when you give some blood to the as a donation to some say organization, they always ask you to drink some juices and water. So this is actually to compensate your volume of water inside the body to maintain your blood pressure. So this was about the excretory system of excretion. We covered excretion in animals and a more detailed human excretory system. I hope you understand what we talked about today about the excretory system. We will meet in next lecture. Thank you.